Hi, y'all. So we have covered weight-bearing statuses and basic gait patterns, the 4-point, 3-point, and 2-point. And so far we have covered crutches for those gait patterns. So now we're going to just round out the different devices that we're going to discuss this year, which are walker and canes. So the objectives here for this short video is to be able to distinguish the different types of walkers and why each might be used, describe how to determine the appropriate fit of a walker to a patient, demonstrate different gait patterns with a walker depending on weight-bearing status, and to appropriately instruct a patient in the use of a cane. So let's get into it. So there's several different types of walkers that you'll see out and about in the world. So the most basic looks like this. This is called a standard walker. It has no wheels, and it can be used after an injury or surgery when there is a weight-bearing restriction. So you can see how they'll have to kind of pick it up every time in order to advance. More commonly seen are the rolling walker, often abbreviated RW, or a front-wheeled walker. Sometimes you'll see it abbreviated FWW. So they usually have wheels on the front legs only. And these can accommodate all of the different weight-bearing restrictions. Non-weight-bearing, weight-bearing is tolerated, toe touch, and all partial weight-bearing statuses. So you can use walker for anybody. It can also be advanced with all 4 legs on the ground, which to me gives it a little bit of an advantage over a standard walker that requires somebody to like pick up the walker and move it every single time they take a step, which can be kind of laborious and just kind of, I think, increase the risk of them tripping over something. Then we have what we call a rollator walker. So these are generally seen for people with deconditioning or moderate balance deficits. So they need something to hold on to, but oftentimes these are a little limiting because they don't turn very easily. You can't sit down if you get tired. So this provides a seat for somebody to turn around and sit down if they need a break. It is not meant for them to wheel around on, although you'll see people doing that all the time. It also comes with this handy little basket where they can put their purse and things like that. It has these brakes, and yeah, it has 4 wheels, and the front wheels usually swivel, so they're a lot more kind of maneuverable than a regular rolling walker. The other thing to note about these is they cannot be used for any weight-bearing restriction. So they can be used for only weight bearings tolerated and full weight bearing. Anybody non-weight bearing needs to use a regular old rolling walker. These would not support you enough. To fit a walker, it's not too different from the crutches. You just have your patient stand upright with the base of the walker, within the base of the walker, and then have their hands down at their sides. So you would adjust the leg so that the hand rest is about the height of their wrist, so that when they grasp onto the handle, their elbows are bent slightly, about 20 to 30 degrees. So walker gait patterns are much simpler than our crutches gait patterns because there's just not as many moving pieces. So we have the hop 2 or 3-point. I wouldn't worry about that too much though, but the hop 2 for non-weight bearing. So you place the walker ahead, and then you push your weight into your arms and bring your other leg forward, and then just repeat. A step 2 is when somebody has toe touch weight bearing or partial weight bearing, or there maybe weight bearing is tolerated, but they're very painful at first. This is where you position the walker first, and then you step into it with the bad leg, and then the good leg meets the bad leg, and then you continue like that. In a step 2 pattern, the walker pauses while the person moves their legs. So it is very much like a repetitive motion. It's walker, bad leg, good leg, walker, bad leg, good leg. Versus somebody who is like less painful, or maybe they're using it for more of a balance problem than an injury or surgery problem. They can use our step through pattern, where the walker just kind of moves continually continually in front of them, like similar to like you would push a shopping cart and just walk along kind of within it and just behind it. So this is for somebody who's not as painful, doesn't have any real restrictions, and can start to cruise along a little bit more. For somebody to use a walker with a non-weight bearing restriction, you really have to have a lot of upper body strength in order to accept the full weight of their body in just their hands. So when you are cueing somebody to use a walker non-weight bearing, you want to really make sure that they're pushing into their arms rather than hopping forward, because this will allow them to have a lot more control and feel a lot less scary. You also have to make sure that all 4 legs of the walker are on the ground before advancing their good leg. So this becomes especially important when we consider negotiating stairs and curbs, which we'll do at some point, but just know that all 4 legs have to be on the ground, and the cue is to push into the hands rather than to like hop or jump forward. Our final device that we're going to discuss at this time is a cane. So this is used when there is some kind of weakness or somebody's recovering from an injury or maybe mild balance deficits. You note that I use the word mild here versus somebody with more moderate balance deficits would be more appropriate for a walker. So what that all means, that's kind of like up for debate, but somebody who's a little off balance could use a cane, but if they're showing more significant balance problems, they'll likely want to use a walker. This cane can also be used after they've progressed off the walker, but they're not quite ready to do no device at all. Maybe they're showing a little bit of a limp still, so they can use a cane instead. This is showing an example of a specific type of cane, or this might actually qualify as technically a walker because it's called a hemi walker. So this is often used for somebody who has had a stroke. So you see how it's much more supportive than just these canes, like the single point coming down. So this is a hemi walker. This could be used for somebody who has a stroke and needs a lot of support on their good side when they're taking a step with their bad leg. This is called a quad cane. There's narrow base and wide base quad canes. It just depends on how big the prongs are here. And that is a step up from the single point cane, but I find these to be a little bit bulky and not used a ton very well in real life. Sequencing with a cane or a gait pattern with a cane is always a 2-point pattern. So you always want the cane and the opposite leg to move together. So generally, the cane should be held in the hand opposite of the injury or weaker side. So in this photo, this woman would have an injury or problem on her right leg here. The cane is held in the left arm so that the cane and the foot get placed together. And then she's going to use the cane for a little bit of support to help take some of the weight off of her affected side. And then she's going to step through with the other side. If it's not an injury condition or pain problem and it's just a balance, you can hold it in whatever hand feels better to them. So these checkpoint questions, I would like you all to take a few moments to answer them in your packet. And then this will be, I'm not going to do an actual test for this packet, like not a written test. Is going to be the practical that you're working on right now for the crutches. So I will be grading this though. So take a few moments to make sure that you answer the questions. Where should the handles of the walker be when measuring the fit of a walker? Like where should it come to? And then how many degrees should the elbows bend when grasping the handle? Sorry for the typo there. What is the difference between a rolling walker and a rollator walker? What type of walker is generally used for a patient with deconditioning but no weight-bearing restriction? And when is it appropriate for a cane to be used if someone is non-weight bearing? Okay, so answer those questions and then you'll be done with this little bit.